Hola clase, soy profesora Sánchez y hoy vamos a hablar sobre nouns, number, and gender. So we have a lot to cover today. It's all grammar, so you really need to pay attention. There's going to be a lot of new concepts for you, some old ones, hopefully, but we are going to need you to memorize a lot of this, study it on your own, and again, practice, practice, practice. So nouns, number, and gender. First of all, what is a noun? I know you all learned this, in second grade probably, but that might be a long time ago for most of us. So what is a noun? Just a refresher. A noun is a person, place, or a thing. Technically also it could be an idea, but for purposes of this book that we're using, they refer to it as a person, place, or a thing. So in English, we have a couple nouns here on the left for, if it's a person, it could be a dentist, it could be a friend, a place could be a city or Guatemala, and a thing could be, a physical thing, a house or a hospital. En español, lo mismo, persona, dentista, amigo. Si es un lugar, ciudad, Guatemala. Y si es una cosa, casa o hospital. Those are just some examples. Now, number is also a pretty basic concept. So we have this in English as well as in Spanish, obviously. So when we talk about number, we're only talking about if the word that we're referring to is singular or plural. So here on the left, you have words that are in the singular, which means there's only one of each. So I have one banana there to help you remember. So casa, amigo, ciudad, y hospital. Now in the plural, you have multiple things: casas, amigos, ciudades, hospitales. So pretty basic stuff, but just, a refresher, you will need to know what this means in English so that you can understand the concept in Spanish. So in Spanish, how do we make a word go from singular to plural? We have a couple rules that you'll have to memorize. So first of all, if a word ends in a vowel, like in our case, casa and amigo, see how the last letter is a vowel? You will need to simply add an S to the end of the word. So casa becomes casas, amigo becomes amigos. Now, if the word ends in a consonant, like in the case of ciudad or hospital, you will need to add an ES. So we have ciudad becomes ciudades, hospital becomes hospitales. Just take a minute to think about that. Once you have that memorized, there are always some exceptions to every rule, unfortunately, and these exceptions are just something you're going to have to learn. And we have exceptions in every language, especially English, so be patient with yourself learning these rules. So first exception to that vowel versus consonant rule is cicatriz, as you can see, ends in a Z, which is technically a consonant. We still add the ES, but what we do to the Z is we have to turn it into a C. So as you can see, cicatriz, which means scar, turns into cicatrices. So not only do you add the ES because it's a consonant, but you have to change the Z to a C. Another exception to this rule, or just something you have to memorize, is in the case of words ending in ON, with the O having an accent on it, like moretón, which means bruise, you have to remove the accent when you change it into plural. So moretones, as you can see, no longer has an accent over the O. So moretón ends in a consonant, an N, so you add the ES, but you change it to moretones by removing the accent over the O. So this is how you change a word in Spanish from singular to plural. So again, in most cases, you're going to look at the last letter of each word, decide if it's a consonant or a vowel, and if it's a vowel, you add an S. If it ends in a consonant, you add an ES for the most part. And then you just have those two exceptions that we learned. So if it ends in a Z, you're going to change the Z to a C. And if you see an ON with an accent on the O, you're going to remember to remove the accent over the O when you make it plural. So let's practice. A practicar. So if you open up your books to page 9, you will see Ejercicio 1-4 in your book. So if you want to follow along there, it might be good practice for you as well. So we're going to do this together. So on the left, we have the examples from the book. Dentista. Dentista ends in a vowel. A is a vowel. So what should we do to make it plural? We add an S. Dentistas. Lápiz ends in a Z. A Z is a consonant, so we add the ES, but we have to remember that when words end in a Z, there's an exception, and the Z changes to a C. So it becomes lápices, pencils. Farmacia ends in a vowel, an A, so it becomes farmacias, the pharmacy. Hombre ends in a vowel, an E, so it becomes hombres. That means men. Mujer ends in a consonant, so we're going to add an ES to make it mujeres, women. Condón ends in that ON with the accent over the O, so if you remember, that's another strange one. You have to take the accent mark off of the O when you make it condones, which means condoms. Doctor ends in a consonant, so you would add an ES, doctores. I assume you know what that one means. Ciudad ends in a consonant, so you add the ES, ciudades, means cities. Inyección has the accent over the O, so you're going to remove the accent over the O. Remember to add an ES because N is a consonant, and it becomes inyecciones, injections. And nariz, which means nose, ends in a Z, so that's another strange one. So the Z becomes a C, as you remember, and then we have to add an ES because it's a consonant to make it narices. Okay, great. So that's just a little practice for us together as a group. Later you'll be getting lots of practice doing this on your own, but you can always come back and refer to this as a refresher if you need it.